Hey, real quick before we start the podcast, if you have listened to more than one episode, can you do me a favor and rate and review the show? Now, I'm not big on asking for favors, but we really want to get this podcast listed in the top of all health and fitness podcasts, not just the fitness category. This will take you less than a minute, and if you could do that, that would make us friends forever. And since we refuse all sponsors on the show, this will be my only ask rather than telling you to go check out some supplement or product we don't actually believe in, like every other podcast out there. So please rate and review. Okay, that's it. To the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. If you want the easiest form of fitness that will give you the quickest results, I'm talking six-pack abs, 7 days, or 40 pounds of weight loss, 24 hours, you have come to the right place. That is the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast, where we talk about unrealistic possibilities that are actually achievable. All of
100,000 followers on Instagram, all those things.
Yeah. So none of that's true. Actually, losing weight is pretty challenging, and you're going to have to put in a lot of work, and gaining muscle mass is similar, and getting more aerobically fit or stronger, all hard things to do. They take time. And that is the norm. And that is what we actually talk about at Garage Gym Athlete. And today it's me, Joe Trampus. Gentlemen, how's it going?
Pretty good. I mean, yeah, it's going, but things have been better, but things are good.
Well, I guess we'll go with the updates where everyone else knows what's going on. I'd like to start with Trampus. It's been a while, man. How is life?
It's been a while for sure. Life right now is very good. Last week was a little bump in the road. Don't have to get into too many of the details. Been a few days at the local Marriott Oconee Memorial Hospital.
It was a hospital.
All right. I mean, it was definitely just a hospital. Trying to make it sound nice, but I couldn't. Spent a few days at the hospital. Just a little appendicitis deal kind of came out and bit me, but really, truly not a big deal. Actually, I would say being a part of this community is what made it so easy. So, killing comfort made something uncomfortable not so bad.
So Trampus got appendicitis, was in the hospital, let us know via Slack. And I think my first question was, are you still training?
And in a roundabout way, I was, because I couldn't do a whole lot. You know, their gym's pretty limited. But there's a physical therapist there that was telling me it's 0.1 miles all the way around the and I did I'd say I did at least 15 laps around that during the day. So got close to 1.5 miles walking around the ward there.
You know, when we talked about daily over decades, like when we started this, we were like, hey, a training session is whatever you deem appropriate for you at that given time. So I would say if your appendix blows up and you walk 0.1 mile, I'm going to go ahead and call that a win and the training session complete.
And at that time, my heart rate was so high, it was almost low zone 2 walking. So
yeah,
I think I could have got a 300 calorie session in as well, not just a session. But regardless, talked with Chris Morrissey, been on the podcast, Dr. Chris Morrissey. Talked to him a handful of times over the past week, and he said he's going to get me a doctor's note either way. So,
okay.
Who? To Jerred or
to Jerred?
For the 300 challenge.
Right. So, if anybody needs a doctor's note, just hit up Chris Morrissey, and then you can send it to Jerred. I want to see how many people need doctor's notes for.
I want to see Joe's doctor's note.
Oh my God, I'm going to need one every other month.
Please excuse 57 training sessions I should have done for.
Yeah. I need a waiver for 40 training sessions.
Well, I think the coolest thing of Trampus, I don't know if you mind me sharing, but you mentioned you're a Garmin wearer, and that was part of what alerted you to the fact that you had a problem, was just the fact that you were like, my resting heart rate, you had some discomfort, right? But you said your resting heart rate was just abnormally high.
Yeah. So, my wife's a nurse, and she tells me that normally when people get an appendicitis, it is like devastatingly painful. Like a lot of people can't walk, they can't move, they need help doing everything, but it is very apparent where the pain is. My pain was pretty broadcasted. So it was really just I thought I just had like a virus and it was causing some stomach issues and it just went on and on and on and then the virus or whatever it was never went away but at one point I was looking at my watch and I was at resting like 120 to 130 beats per minute. And that's, it's not uncommon for me to get that high in a workout, but it is very uncommon for me just to be hanging around and it just not come down. So I went to the hospital then. I was like, something's wrong. But they all told me, it's like, that's very odd that it wasn't as apparent. It really wasn't until I was at the hospital. I got some of that other stomach discomfort to go away, and I felt that then. So really, truly, like, and appendicitis isn't no joke. Like, if it goes untreated, people die. Like, it's I'm not some survivor over here, but for real, like, if you don't get to the hospital, eventually you will die from it. So, it was cool that Garmin, of all things, is what got me to the hospital. But yeah,
not a sponsor.
Hashtag not a sponsor, but
not a sponsor. But I will take a new.
We'll take
free
some.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garmin, send the man a 7 just for.
Yeah.
All right. Well, glad you're better, man.
Yeah. I'm feeling a lot better as well.
So Joe, top that.
Until you have to get it yanked out.
Yeah, that'll be in a few weeks. But.
So I finally got to run in the heat again for the first time since we left Bahrain. And I know some people might think that that's a terrible thing, that they wouldn't want to do that, but I actually enjoyed it. I kind of like getting out there in the heat and just being like running and being super sweaty. And yeah, it affects my pace and all that, but I just there's something rewarding about it afterwards that I just feel so accomplished after doing it. So I did 2 run days because when in Rome I wanted to run, and also there was a really long like most go to run. I ran to Rome. That's how far. And so like most Air Force bases, because that's where I was at this past week, they're just like so spread out. There's always like a really long run path at some point, and this base was no exception. Has a really long run path from like one side of base all the way to base housing. And so I just ran along that, and I did 2 run days because I had that. So I did a 30-30 interval day, a ton of 30-30s, so I could do some speed work. That was on like the really hot day. And then 2 days later, I was like, okay, I'll just go for like a 4-mile run during my lunch break. Went on the run, figured it was nice out. It got down to like 95. I decided to do 5 miles, and then at the 2.5 mile turn, I was like, well, I might as well just go all the way till 3 miles to make this a 10K. So I ran a 10K impromptu on my lunch break, which it felt great. I reached a point where, because I wanted to do zone 2, I wasn't like actually like going all out for it. But doing so much zone 2, I got to a point after like 4 miles where my effort wasn't that hard. I was just trying to keep my heart rate down. So like I actually had to force myself to dial back my pace just to keep under zone 2. But it wasn't like I could have probably kept on going just as easily for a half marathon. Have been fine, which is nice to feel because of so much running that we do, and just knowing that all the running and building up to that point where you reach I can reach a point where I can just do randomly one of those runs and be completely fine and not like have to really work up to it or be feeling it for days, because it would have been just completely normal training session the next day. So humble brag there, but I think just a lesson of more zone 2, the more consistent aerobic work you do, especially on the lower end, can pay dividends in the long run to where you can just have more fitness freedoms.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really have nothing. I have no updates. Whatever. It's hot. It's really hot in the garage, but I just feel like I'm at the point where I'm used to it, and the workouts are what they are. Just going through them the best of my ability. I have found if I'm like the least bit off on like nutrition or hydration, the hot workouts don't work out so well. Like I was in there, I think this was Friday. I just had like a really busy day. And I was like not paying attention to hydration. I think I'd had like 30 ounces of water like the whole day, and I'm training at the very end of the day. And I was like 30 minutes into this session, I was like, something's wrong. Like I just do not. I don't normally feel this bad in a training session. Like I was like, am I getting sick or what? And I was like, oh yeah, you've probably sweat more water than you've drank today. And so that was like a big red flag. And then I drank an absurd amount of water and like recovered and felt good. And you also know if you're dehydrated if you drink like, let's say 90 ounces of water after like 5 or 6 p.m. and you don't wake up and pee in the night. It's like all that water had to go somewhere, right? And so, yeah, I was a little bit dehydrated that day. So I'm normally really good about staying on top of my hydration, but got away from me on Friday, and I suffered in the training. Because you're talking about keeping in zone 2, I was like similar to, Trampus. Like I was like doing nothing, and my heart rate was like 150, and I was like, something's wrong here. And just to hit on that point real quick, the only time I ever get into zone 2 when I'm just like sitting still is in the sauna, and it is one of the most uncomfortable feelings. So like the fact that you were there just like in your house, it's crazy because like my heart rate has gotten up to, I think the highest is like 150. If I'm really pushing it, it's like 200 degrees in the sauna and I'm in minute like 25. My heart rate's like 152 and I'm just sitting there. It's just such a crazy feeling.
Well, so I had taken a nap, and then I woke up, and then I looked at my watch, and that's what it was, and I just felt like it was a debate in my mind. Like I needed to figure out what I needed to do. I thought maybe I needed to go eat something. Maybe it was a debate in my mind whether I should get up and go to the refrigerator, which is literally 25 steps. I mean, it's out the door and around the corner, and I'm at my refrigerator. It was a debate in my mind whether I should get up from the bed. That's how
we've all been
crappy
there.
I felt.
Yeah,
but not to that.
Pretty common occurrence there.
Yeah, I don't know why that you need to highlight that. Like just putting people on blast right now.
Yeah, getting off the couch to grab another beer. It's like,
yeah. So what you said about hydration is funny though. I gained 15 pounds in the hospital because I was connected to that IV the whole time.
Ooh, they're just filling you up.
Believe me, there's places for the water to go. I don't know where it all goes, but there are places for the water to go. So you
flushing your
you can be more hydrated.
All right, well, let's get into some of the science for the day. So, talking about rye. If you ever were like wondering, like, you know what, guys, I really wish you'd talk about bread a little bit more. Well, here it is. Congrats on we're finally at the bread episode. But it's the name of the study is the effects
best sandwiches for my body.
the effects of high fiber rye compared to refined wheat on gut microbiota composition, plasma, short chain fatty acids, and implications for weight loss and metabolic risk factors. This is done in 2022. So I'm going to talk about who is in the study a little bit more, and Joe's going to talk about kind of the method, and then we can kind of jump to some takeaways. So there were 242 participants that began the dietary intervention. Each diet group had 121 total participants, with roughly 61% of them being female. Both groups were around 56 to 57 years old, weighed 88 to 89 kilograms, and had 39 to 41% body fat and BMI of about 30, with no significant difference between the groups. Of the 242 individuals who began the dietary interventions, 200 of them completed it. The baseline characteristics for the 207 study completers were quite similar to the full sample of 242 study starters, and were very similar when comparing across groups. Before you jump in, Joe, so really what they're trying to look at is rye versus wheat, but there is some research, observational data that cereals in general, people who eat cereals, I don't know, have a lower overall like BMI and body weight, and there's a lot of debate about, why that is, because there can be a lot of other factors. Like if someone eats fruit, and a study can attribute all of that to being like, oh, okay, they're fruit eaters. But it could be that a person who eats fruit likes to run and likes to go to sleep and get eight hours of sleep a night, all these other things. So it's really hard with nutritional and observational data, but they're really trying to tease out like okay, why is there this connection in really large studies between lower body weight and lower body mass index with people who eat cereal? And anyway, they were trying to tease this out. So that was kind of the why behind the study. And then they were trying to compare specifically wheat versus rye. So Joe, what was kind of the method they went through?
Yeah, so how they brought them in. There was a 2-week introductory period where they gave the dietary guidelines, and part of the 2-week introductory period, they took baselines of standardization, and they ruled out anybody that had couldn't adhere to certain dietary guidelines or were sort of resistant to weight loss. One cool thing is a part of that as well when they were doing weigh-ins for the initial introductory period, and they had because it's 12 weeks, it's a 12-week program, a 12-week study, but they had week 0 and then week 2 where they checked in, and if they didn't have any sort of progress and didn't adhere to it in week 2, then they ruled you out because they weren't going to waste your time for 12 weeks. But at week 2, when they did keep those people, they also took into account women's cycles, which I thought was interesting, which we rarely see. So that was accounted for because, and 61% of the people were women anyway. But after they got through that, they were given dietary guidance, and they were told to both groups were told to try and be in a 500 calorie deficit, and they gave them a macro breakdown, like a guidance of okay, you need to be between 45 to 60% carbs, 10 to 20% protein, and 25 to 40% fat. And they had them weigh and log their food. Pretty low on protein, but that's besides the point. And this is in conjunction with dietary guidelines. And they were given and then from those two groups, they were given an assortment of either wheat products or rye products. And they were told within those products that they need to consume 30 to 50% of their daily caloric intake was from those specific products. So the rye people were eating, 30 to 50% of their calories from the rye products they were given, and the wheat were the same way. And let's see what else. So the rye products, they were trying to get them up to over 30 grams of fiber a day, whereas the wheat products the wheat product they were provided were only going to be about 8 grams per day, but that's just for half of their dietary guidelines versus the other half is whatever they're logging. And they had progress checks at week 6 and week 12 for all the outcomes that they were measuring at week 6 and week 12 for interventions. And afterwards, all that, they also did stool samples for microbiota, and they measured a whole lot of stuff. Yeah, so that was these methods.
Awesome. And I think that it's worth noting, because we don't normally have a conflict of interest most of the time when we cover a study, but this one of the study, I guess, scientists or whatever, was he's a founder of the Nordic Rye Forum, which you can go look up. They're really big into rye. And so that might be why this is specifically looking at rye. And that was the only thing I don't like about the study, because it says the effects, then the title of the study is the effects of high fiber rye. If we could just cut out rye and wheat, and we're just like the effects of high fiber on gut microbiota, this study becomes a lot more interesting to me. And so I wrote all these out of how many leaps they had to take to ultimately say rye was better. And it's not that I disagree with the study. Again, I feel like if we're talking about gut health and fiber, I agree with a lot of what they're talking about. But here are all the leaps. So it's cereal is inversely associated with body weight and obesity measures. Okay. Statement of fact 1. Statement of fact 2. Among cereals, rye has the highest fiber content. Now I've stated 2 facts. Now I'm going to my 3rd fact. High rye consumption has been linked to increased production of gut fermentation. Okay. 4th fact. Body weight and metabolic risk factors may partly be mediated through gut microbiota and their fermentation products. 5th fact. Rye compared to wheat induced some changes in gut microbiota composition. 6th, which may be related to reductions in low-grade inflammation. So we've gone all the way from cereal, for some reason, people who eat cereal have a lower body weight, to all the way down to now rye has a little bit better influence on the gut, and the gut health can reduce inflammation. And then the last thing is okay, so it could be why weight loss happens is the reduction in inflammation because of the gut stuff. and rye has more fiber, which helps the gut stuff. And then lastly, the conclusion is like, okay, rye is better than wheat. And you can see how slanted this study is. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, no joke. Like, the dude is like, there's a huge conflict of interest. I don't even see how. I don't think I've seen this many leaps in a study. And I was talking to the team about this like ahead of time. I don't think I've seen. Normally, you don't need this many leaps. And I talked about this in a recent podcast. Maybe it was beta alanine one, where I was like, normally they're like, if you take this supplement, it heavily like increases this precursor. And we know this precursor to be a performance enhancer. So there's some leap, like, but the more leaps you have to take when you're coming to conclusion in these studies, the least likely I'm going to trust the study, because it's like you're getting further away from science, as opposed to when we look at fitness related or like strength related studies. It's like these 12 people did this squat protocol for this many weeks. These people got stronger. There's no like, well, we have a theory that weight training makes you stronger. Like, those things are already proven, but they have to take so many like steps here. It's not great. So I want to focus less on the rye and more about gut health and fermentation. But I'd also like to know what you guys thought of the study in general, or any takeaways you got from having read through it.
Trappist. Oh.
Yeah, no, good. So, well, one thing just straight from the study, I did think it was interesting that you had to qualify to be in the study. They didn't just take random people and make it like, all right, you're in the study now. Like, you had to lose a certain percentage of weight, or I can't remember exactly how it broke it down.
Their
but over a
parameters
test
were
period.
Yeah,
You couldn't
their
take
parameters I
nicotine. You
liked a
couldn't
lot.
train for more than 10 hours per week.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a
Yeah.
lot of.
They had good parameters, I thought, for setting up the study. For me, especially when it comes to like bread, like I really like bread, but I don't know how you could ever make a case that eating a lot of bread is going to be a weight loss strategy. Like I do think it's cool. Well, I think it's
compared to
cool that
wheat.
there are, yeah, compared to wheat. Well, see, that's just it. Like wheat is awful. Like, it is one of the, the top 3 world produced crops. I mean, they have figured out how to make wheat so efficiently, and it is completely stripped of anything nutritional that it used to have, than compared to what it is now. Like, it's just complete garbage. I mean, you take almost any other bread, and even if you had like good wheat seeds or whatever, and you maybe are growing your own, or a baker's growing their own or something, I don't know, but like, you take any of that bread and implement it in your macro plan or something like that, you're gonna see changes. Like, as long as you're following the macro plan and you don't have some uh, huge gluten issue, if whatever grain you decide to go with does have gluten in it, like, you're gonna see changes. I don't think it has to be rye, but I mean, yeah, just standard grocery store wheat is, I mean, it's just garbage. It's just garbage. So, uh, I am excited that someone is trying to at least prove that maybe a higher quality of bread is okay. Like, because it's so demonized to eat any bread. I almost eat no bread, but if we go to dinner or go to breakfast and they've got some sourdough or something like that, I'll definitely eat that. I don't know if it's real sourdough, but at least I feel like it's real sourdough. So, at least I
Probably
have
not.
the mental. Yeah, it's probably not, but I feel like I've got at least the mental win there. But the overall study, I feel like they did a good job, but it's just like everything they say, you just got to take it with that grain of salt that it was funded by the Nordic Rye Forum. I mean, it's in your name. Like, why? There's no way you want them to say that wheat's better at the end of this, or whatever.
Well, and that's why I don't like the leaps. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with some of them. But I mean, if you've watched any like nutritional arguments between like vegans and uh, paleo or
Everybody.
whoever, carnivore, yeah, like they never look at a study and they like the vegan person and the carnivore person, the paleo person can look at the same study. And this is why I hate nutritional stuff, because then they'll be like, yeah, but did you know who that study was funded by? I'm like, oh God, here we go. And then the other person's like, yeah, but you didn't really look at how, like, what type of gut microbiota it helped increase. And there's just so many nuances that I'm like done with it. Like I just don't think, I think you can disprove anything with nutritional science, and anybody who's in nutritional science, um, I'm sorry. Like, you have a very tough job. You basically can't prove anything, even when it's like scientifically proven. I'm not saying you actually can't. I'm saying no one will believe you, because all it takes is like one influencer on Instagram to say the reason why that study's wrong, and then you're screwed, even though you might have a PhD attached to your name. It won't matter. And so nutritional science is very, very difficult when it comes to any of these things. But I do think that you're right, Trampus. Like, I don't think bread should be demonized, and I do think that there are better options. Like, I don't think it's bread that's killing people. You know what I mean? Like, we've been doing the bread thing for a long time. And by we, I mean humans, the
Yeah.
human race. Like, I don't think that's going to be the issue. And people always like to focus on that. They're like, look how fat America got after we started following the food pyramid. It's like, who the hell followed the food pyramid? Are Americans like sitting around? They're like, yes, 100% compliance to the food pyramid, even though we don't have 100 compliance to any damn thing at all.
Nothing.
Like,
Nothing.
how on earth are we correlating the food pyramid? And I'm not saying the food pyramid's good. I'm just saying, like, there's no like compliance. What the only real problem is overconsumption. And so you can't point to any of these things in particular and saying that they're the bad thing in the world. What were
Yeah.
your thoughts on this, Joe?
Yeah. So just going off of the nutrition debate nowadays, I see it all the time. People will post, their plant-based or vegan stuff, whatever side you're on, and it starts off talking about specifically on nutrition, like nutrition value, and then hop, skip, and a jump. Very short time later, they're talking about the environment, and it's like, wait, I thought we were talking about nutrition here. Now you're bringing in the environment into this. Like, why are we skipping? Why are you pulling off stuff that has no relevance to the current debate? When like, and that's just the point. Like like whenever it comes to nutrition, people will pull out anything out of the woodwork that they want to, just to validate their own view and point.
Right, because if you're a vegan for ethical reasons with animals or climate change and you believe those things, those are now personal decisions.
Yeah.
Like, you can't actually argue with someone about nutrition anymore from a macronutrient standpoint or micronutrient standpoint if you're making ethical choices for your own life. And by all means, make those choices. I have no problem with that whatsoever. It's just, you can't, like you're saying, Joe. It's like, if we come in head to head and we're gonna battle about micronutrients, and you're like, climate change. I'm like, no. Like, we were talking micros here. Like, what are you doing? And that happens all the time in nutrition.
Yeah. But going back to the bread in this study, circling back to the health parameters, the note that I put for the health markers was that they chose run of the mill overweight people, and what I meant for that is that they had to have certain BMI within levels. They had to have a certain thyroid, certain cholesterol, so they didn't just go and like pick the most unhealthy people to do this study with. It would be the same as when we talk about our studies as, testing a strength theory, and they have to have somebody that hasn't worked out in 2 years. Will be that. So that was kind of like, that's why I like the health parameters on this on. We only eat bread that is usually it's sourdough, or it's the bread that is in the refrigerated section. So not like in the shelf stable. So whatever bread we have will go in the refrigerated section. Usually it is sprouted or sourdough, something with a little bit of fermentation to it. And that's, I know, Jerred, I think you were might get into that later, but when I was looking at the study, I guess it just helps that being dialed into nutrition and the fact that we've read Fiber Fueled, because we've already had fiber on the mind, that to know how important it is. So when I was reading this, I was thinking, okay, yeah, they're talking specifically rye, but I'm just thinking, what you said before, high fiber, low fiber. And that I think should be the key takeaway when examining this. Not switching to rye bread. It's, I need to incorporate 30 to 40 grams of fiber in my day, and that's what you need to do, because it can have all of these good effects. And if you really want to go into the fiber rabbit hole, then pick up Fiber Fueled. Or listen to the book review that we did last year. I think it was like last June or so. because it was a great read. And again, like that there's always going to be caveats and who writes it and certain biases, but there's still a lot of good information to come out of it. And it just kind of goes along with this fiber take for what the study was going for. So when you take away, remove some of the specifics and some of the leaps, it is still a good point. But I can see how some people can, it's easy to get hung up on specifics, especially when it comes to nutrition, because people just kind of, there's so much conflicting and information out there because of everybody has their own bias, their own, whatever your source is, whatever your feelings are toward one thing or another.
Yeah, and I think my ultimate takeaway, very similar to you, Joe. I think ultimately what we're looking at here is weight loss. And they're trying to answer the question is if rye or let's just say fermented breads are better for weight loss. And there's some at least logical evidence. They had to make some leaps, but again, I'm not saying those leaps are wrong. That's just a lot of leaps to jump specifically to rye. Like if you cut out rye, we can eliminate like 3 of those leaps and we can just talk about healthy gut reduces inflammation, which can lead to weight loss. That's 3 leaps. That's three statements of facts, 2 leaps. It's not as bad then. And so I think that is something that you want to focus on. So if you are trying to lose weight, anyone who jumps straight to a macro plan, if you're coming from nothing, I'm talking about not really exercising that much and you're not doing anything with your nutrition, and someone's trying to put you on a macro plan right away, they must have some sort of either so much experience doing that with people that they have like a mental protocol that they're going to walk you through. But that's not what's best for most people. For most people, if you're trying to make a huge change and you want to lose weight, you need to focus on tiny, tiny actions. Like the first thing that we give everybody who's coming in from that kind of background is cut out liquid calories. Like that's basically it. Like that's number 1. And then after that, we always focus on really small things. So cut out liquid calories. That's normally stops weight gain and it can even help a lot of people lose weight. Then after that, protein. Let's focus on our protein and our water. We've done the protein and water challenge multiple times. Let's just focus on how much protein you can get. And then let's focus on your hydration. And then after that, focusing on something like fiber. These are the steps I would take if I was in a terrible weight loss situation, because you have to know yourself and what you're capable of. You're not capable, most likely, if we're being realistic, of tracking to the gram everything that goes in your mouth for months on end until you lose all the weight. Maybe if your life depended on it, but even then, the research shows that doesn't really matter that much. You know how we know that? Because of how many diabetic people there are who are about to get their foot chopped off, and all they have to do is go on a macro plan like we're talking about, and they might be able to avoid it, but that's too much work. They would rather go with the amputation. That is the truth. And so we need to focus on very tiny things. So let's eliminate liquid calories. Okay, you got that? Cool. Let's go to protein. You got that? Let's go to fiber. And then if you're just doing those 3 things, you'll probably lose a good amount of weight. You're going to gain a little bit of motivation. Now we're talking about the psychological side of things here. Maybe we're getting closer to being able to operate off of a macro plan to some degree and tracking calories. I think these things are more sustainable. Even if you push yourself to stick with a macro plan for 12 weeks, the research also is not in your favor about the rebound. Like you're going to gain the weight back because you were pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. It didn't actually become habitual, and you're going to go back to your old way. So you really need to focus on these small things if you're trying to lose weight. And I think ultimately that's my takeaway for weight loss. Yes, let's focus on having a very healthy gut. If that's having fermented food in the form of breads or whatever else, do it. Definitely read Fiber Fueled if you're looking for more on the fiber space and gut health. But it's funny that entire book is about gut health, but it's called Fiber Fueled, right? You see how much they're related, fiber and gut health. So that's it. Yeah. You guys have anything else on that one?
Nope.
All right. Well, we will be talking about the minimum effective space for a garage gym athlete. So how much space do you actually need to be a garage gym athlete? Hey, quick break here. As you know, we will not accept sponsors on this podcast. We want to keep it content focused and just deliver the best we can to you. So if you think this podcast is worth listening to, can you do me a favor and share it with one friend? I don't care how you share it. You can text it to a friend, Instagram, DM, email, or even snail mail, but I can't reimburse you for that stamp. Look, The best way for a podcast to continue to grow is word of mouth. So if you can share this episode with at least one person, I would be forever grateful. All right, back to the show. So let's dive into it. How much space do we actually need? Is it a 5x5, a 10x2? It's funny. I did a video a long time ago. I don't even know if this is public anymore, where I kind of answered that question, and I rented a space in a storage unit. Do you recall this video, Joe?
Oh yeah.
Trampus, have you seen it before?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it was an older video. It was back when I launched the Garage Gym Athlete book. So maybe like 2016. And I was like talking about like the smallest space you could possibly use. And I think that was a 5x10. And it was 5 deep and 10 long. And if you have a barbell, that's 7 feet, right? So you do need some space. But that was just kind of to get a point across of like how much space do you actually need. And it depends on what your goals are and everything else. But let's talk about it. Minimum effective space for a garage gym athlete. Joe, what are your thoughts on this one, man? How much space do you think someone realistically needs?
So mine will come with a little bit of small caveats, but honestly, so I have so we all know that the horse stall mats. A lot of people use the horse stall mats. I bought when I was in San Diego. I bought 4, and I have pretty much relegated all of my training space to those 4 squares. So that would be, I think they are 4x6, maybe.
I think so, yeah.
So it's about 8x12 is where where my rack fits, all of my weights, my kettlebells, and that's where I do all my movements because I'm going to be doing on rubber mats. So that is where everything that fits that I do everything on. So 8x12 is my minimum space, and I say that the caveat is because big things like the cardio equipment is kind of like pulled off to the side, and like the boxes are against the wall. But that's it. That's just like overflow, a little bit of storage space. But everything I do is on those mats. So and with the cardio equipment, you can kind of tuck them away and stack them, and like the rowers kind of put up. I just have to pull it out and set it down. But that's really all I have and use. And although our space takes up technically like one of the car spots at the garage just because of other overflow and storage, all you really need is that space to me, because the rack takes up like kind of a third of it in order to move it, especially if it's like a power rack, depending, because ours is an actual cage, not just a rack. And that sits on like one half of it, and then you go to the other half, and then that's pretty much your movement space. So as long as you're training by yourself, and there's even times where Liz and I are there at the same time, like I'll be in the rack and she'll be in the open space, or vice versa. So to me, that is the minimum space that you would need to have the most, and that's even like having some room and some freedom, like safety wise too. It's not like too cramped. So that works for me and what I've been working with. And although I would love to have everybody, it's always great to have more space. I just haven't really felt the need to so far.
There's an 8x12, but that wouldn't include cardio equipment. That's just like
so
the essentials going about an 8x12 space.
Yeah, weights, gym mats, 8x12. Cardio stuff comes outside of it because you can kind of tuck those away and like wheel it out when you need it, or pull it out and kind of have storage. So I guess it would be 8x12 plus a storage corner.
Tramp corner. I love it.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you're doing. If you're a no gear type athlete, you need I don't know, I guess about a yoga mat size area.
One square.
and then be able to run. When I first started with Garage Gym Athlete was not first started. Actually, I don't know when it was in my Garage Gym Athlete history, but at some point I'm actually in it now. I've got a shed. Joe calls it my she shed.
Your she shed, yeah.
Very good friend.
Shed.
More for you, it could be your tea shed.
My tea shed. Oh, I like that. I'm probably going to start using that.
Way to go.
It's 8 by, I think it's 10 by 12. So, and that's the outside dimensions. So the inside's a little bit smaller, but literally it fit my rack. You want to make sure it's tall enough for overhead stuff and pull-ups and whatnot. But really, like I didn't have any cardio equipment. I just ran, but it fit a rack. I mean, it fit a little storage thing for dumbbells or kettlebells and whatnot. It really, I think I was doing 1-man 1 barbell for a really long time in here, and that and running and the what's it called, the conditioning part of 1-man 1 barbell, I was able to do everything in here, and it was great. I do have a dream of getting about a 30 by 30 or 40 by 40 building and having all of it, like an office and a tool shed and then just a nice big open gym. But really, it's just a want. Like there's really no need right now. I'm in the half of our garage, and it's more than enough room for a piece or two of, and then with that, my equipment stays exactly where it is. I don't have to pull it in or pull it out. I have a rower. I have an Airdyne, and my wife's got a treadmill that we never use. But all of that stays where it is, and then the squat rack and everything. So minimum, it depends on what you're doing, but if you're gonna have a squat rack, you need at least like an 8 by 12, 10 by 12 space to get the bar up and over you. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about when we kind of put this topic down as something we want to cover, because we do get this question quite a bit, and I'd say that these are like the biggest concerns for garage gym athlete is like space. Like, how much space do I need? Do I have the space? Time? Do I have time to work out? And then programming. Those are like the three big things that garage gym athletes run into as far as problems. And so I didn't want to answer it kind of like in that video I made where I'm like, yeah, you could do 5x10 or like whatever, because that ultimately is the answer. Like, if you bought one of those mats, one 6x4, and you had a jump rope and a kettlebell, you could do some serious damage for a couple years and get in some really good shape, right? Because you got everything you need for calisthenics. You put a pull-up bar on that mat, kettlebell swings, jump rope, but that's not what people are really looking to do. I mean, I feel like if you're in that situation where you have like a spare closet or bedroom, like maybe that's what you're looking to do. So I thought about this the same way, and I came similar conclusion to Joe. I might just have stretched it one full mat out and down. So what would that be? 12 by 12 is what I kind of landed on. I was thinking of it in mats too. So yeah, 12 by 12, just because I think that that's really what you need if you want a rack, equipment, and then like one piece of cardio equipment. Because I don't think, like I have a ski erg, I have a bike erg, I have a true form. Is that everything? Yeah. Rower. Yeah. So I have too many pieces of cardio equipment, and that's from, whatever, a decade and a half of being a garage gym athlete and just boredom, right? That's the only reason I have all these other things, is because I'm not trying to be a good rower or skier or anything like that. I just get bored and want to do different things. And so you don't need any of that, but I do think you need one piece of solid cardio equipment. And so if that was like a rower, like in the corner of that space, like this 12 by 12 that you could just drop down, put back up, or an Airdyne, that's what I would do. But I think realistically, for the storage space element of it, having a barbell and a rack, and then like a place to put kettlebells or dumbbells or something, and one piece of cardio equipment, that's where I'd land on 12 by 12. Joe says you can get it done in 8 by 12. And I think that's true too. So then, to go to the inverse, like you're saying, Trampus, like a 30 by 30 or 40 by 30 or whatever, I don't even know what I would do with it. And I absolutely love garage gyms and everything. But if you gave me a 40 by 40, I think I would put all the equipment I currently have in there, and then I wouldn't have anything else, because I'd be like, yeah, let's buy another rack. I'm like, why do I need 2 racks? It's like, okay, let's. And so I run, but I absolutely want it. Just so you know, I'm not saying I absolutely would love to have this like dedicated shop space to like just fitness. But I honestly think if you gave me that space, I wouldn't know how to fill it. All monetary stuff aside, I'd be like, I wouldn't know what to put in there, unless you're inviting friends over and all this other stuff.
Strip of turf.
I was pushing it. I was pushing it because I want a shop in it, like a tool shop and an office. I wanted it all be housed in one place. But what you're saying though is right. Like 12 by 12 is pretty perfect, because a rower, the one I have an old Model B Concept 2 that does not fold, and it doesn't hang. That I could probably rig something up, but it doesn't hang like that. Like it's there and it doesn't move. And so
mine doesn't fold. Well, I mean, I guess it breaks in half if
Stand
you want
up.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it doesn't get any
It doesn't
smaller.
stand up on its end.
I could
Yeah,
hang
I could
it,
do it,
but like it's not
Technically.
designed. It's not designed to do it. I don't think.
All right, I got you. Okay.
In the '90s, they weren't worried about it. I guess when that thing was built.
They
But
take up what they take up. Like,
Yeah.
but
the space is the space.
the problem I ran into in this space, it's like I said, it's a probably usable space is about 9 by 12. Is like if you were wanting to do something with that rower, it was always in the way. Like
Mhm.
you couldn't jump rope in here. I would have to go outside. And not that there's anything going with outside. That's probably better for you. But it does thunderstorm and stuff. And if you're trying to get something specific done on a specific day, it kind of limited what you could do indoors. So I don't
Yeah.
know. That's why I think a 12 by 12 is perfect because you would never really need to move that piece of equipment. Like you would have enough room.
Well, I think just seeing, we've interviewed a lot of European garage gym athletes over the years, and I think I've never lived in Europe, and so broad brush stroke here, but space is a little bit different there in Europe, because a lot of the structures are much more historical. They're not doing, they don't, and I'm not like saying this like the whole country or all of Europe is like that, but they seem to like not be as all about their secondary structures and garages as Americans might be. You live in South Carolina, I live in Texas. It's pretty common to drive across somebody who's got like 10 acres of land and like 3 additional structures that's not their house, right? Like
My neighbor.
yeah.
My neighbor has 1 acre and he has it's at least 20 by 20. It's just a 20 by 20 building in his backyard. He's not working out in it, but
the European garage gym athletes that we've had on the podcast, one, super dedicated, amazing athletes, most of the ones that we've interviewed in Europe, but also with very limited space, and so I think it's just a huge testament to like, if you want to get it done, you'll get it done no matter what space you have, because they'll either be in like these tiny one car garage spaces or even smaller, and I think you can get it done. So I think it's just a matter of what your goals are. I think if your goal is hardcore hypertrophy, like bodybuilding, I think being a garage gym athlete is the hardest thing to do. And I'm not talking about if you just want to build some muscle and get a little bit bigger or something. I'm talking about like true, like I want to be a bodybuilder. You should probably just pay for a Globo Gym membership, to be honest, because you're going to need a lot of different isolation machines, and you should go down that route. And that's what you're going to need, because I see a lot of the garage gym athletes or the garage gyms that are like The Rock. You saw, like, I don't know if you saw that video on The Rock's garage gym. I'm like, yeah, it's cool and all, but like, I don't want 27 different isolation machines. All money aside, I don't care how much your gym costs. I'm just saying, like, I would never even buy that. I would never have 27 different isolation machines, because it's not my style of training. So you really have to factor that in. I do think if you're a more bodybuilder style athlete, you should probably maybe avoid a garage gym, because space is going to be very important. But if you're just looking to get concurrent training, really good shape, stronger, some, muscle mass, athletic build, aerobic conditioning, those kind of things, you don't need a lot of space at all. You can get it done pretty easily.
Talking about European athletes, Marco, what? He lived in an apartment and had a wall that is
His living room, man.
Yeah, his living room.
Yeah.
And his squat rack like folded in or whatever.
Dude, that guy.
He gets it done for sure.
Marco, if you're listening, one of the most impressive human beings on the planet. I'm not gonna lie.
Really is. It's kind of
well, he got married. He got his wife on board with that idea. Like, hey, let's turn half our living room into a gym. And then I think she had like one stipulation that was like, okay, well, just like don't like make it clutter up the rest of the house, whatever. And that guy's gym, like, that was their deal, right? Well, it's Marco. So like there's no failing with that guy. So it's just perfect condition all the time before his wife would even wake up. I don't even think she saw like a barbell out, because he would wake up before she wakes up and do all of his training like silently, so as not to wake her up in their living room, and then put everything away perfectly, wipe up the chalk. Like, impressive human being, and setup, to be honest. Pretty awesome.
Ninja.
All right. Well, speaking of Marco, he's pretty good at making some pretty awful workouts.
Did he
make yourself Saturday workouts? I don't know if he
think this
made
was
this
all
one
you.
worse, but
This is all Jerred.
he's good at making them worse. And so we're talking Broken Arrow. Do you have it ready to brief, Joe?
I do.
Okay.
So this one is like the penultimate pinnacle, whatever you want to call it, say, of like our Media So Saturday workouts. It is probably the biggest, the definite longest. But shouldn't intimidate. Don't let that intimidate you as well, especially if you've been training for a while. So, Broken Arrow 4-time. There's a buy-in with a vest. If you're at this level, you will do 150 squats, 100 push-ups, and 50 strict pull-ups. So essentially half Murph calisthenics, but not partitioned. So you have to do all 150 squats, and then all 100 push-ups, and then all 50 strict pull-ups. Then it doesn't say. Well, yeah, it doesn't say to remove the vest, but you probably should remove the vest to do a bike.
Oh, I think it does, depending on where the athlete brief was written. Like, it says remove the vest.
Yeah,
depends on where you're pulling it from right now.
I'm pulling it from Team Builder, so I'm editing now.
Yes, you must take the vest off before you ride. That's always the tip we give here in this too. Is like, don't wear the vest on the bike.
Yeah,
I've got it put up, and in the video it says in the cash out no vest. That's the first place it says it.
Yeah, so we'll get that corrected. But either way, after you do those 3 calisthenics, you'll bike for 10 miles. So you do a 10-mile bike, and then after 10-mile bike, you do a 3-mile run. Then after 3-mile run, you will do 1,000 double unders. 1,000 double unders.
Standard.
And then after that, you will finish. Cash out will be the same: 150 squats, 100 push-ups, 50 pull-ups. Kipping is allowed, and again, you're not wearing a vest during this. So the only time you're wearing a vest is the initial squat, push-up, pull-ups. Take it off, leave it off for the bike run, double unders, and then that final bit. I'll go right into mine, and I was really fine with this workout until about 600 or 700 double unders in, and then it's like my forearms. Like the forearms would start cramping because I was doing my double unders. I'm pretty good at double unders. I was doing them in 100 sets. So I'd do 100, then I'd break for like 30 seconds or something because I knew I needed to rest, and I knew I needed to because I didn't want to reach a point where I was completely fatigued in my forearms and just my conditioning anyway, because then I would just beat my head against the wall. So it was that, but then so that was hard. It kind of started to drag out because my forearms were so tired. But I think the main thing was once I hit that final cash out, I started getting pretty nauseous, and I think because I was completely tapped out fuel wise. I think, yeah, I was completely depleted at this point. I'm not even sure if I did this fasted or not. I don't think I did, but I didn't have much.
I wouldn't advise that.
Carb stores in the tank. Yeah, I didn't have much in the tank, so I was doing the squats, and I was like hitting the wall. Then as I was doing the push up, I was like, okay, I'm slowing down even more, and the pull ups were terrible. I was like on the cusp of vomit basically at the 50 pull-ups because I just needed to get it finished. I was like, I just need to get done, and I'm kipping them, and I was completely depleted. So fuel yourself. Check out our fueling series if you really need to, but definitely have something an hour before this. Get some carbs in you. Plenty of electrolytes as well. It doesn't say in here what there are established and recruit levels that I'm not going to go over.
Yeah, just a lot of reading of numbers.
Yeah, I believe after the fact we said that it is a 2-hour time cap. So adhere to
No.
No?
Where was that said?
I don't know. I thought it was just remarked at some point, but no. Okay, no time cap. Just finish.
Well, I think 2 hours is going to be about the. I think if you're blazing, which is like I think record is I can't remember is me and one other guy, and we were like sub hour and a half, and we were kind of battling for the top spot there, and that's blazing speed, and that was me like being really good at Murph times too, and I think the bike matters a lot in that. Like if I do this again, bike erg 10 miles is a lot different than a bike 10 miles, very different, and can affect your time quite a bit. So I think if an hour and a half is like elite, add 30 minutes easy, for whatever. So if you're at 2 hours, it's fine. That's why you just need to kind of block this off. If you want to cap yourself, absolutely do it. Just like do pick a time though. It might just be based off how much time you have. Like, look, I got 2 hours. I'm going to cap it at this and then go about my Saturday, or 2.5. But yeah, you don't want to keep pushing. If I've ever mentioned like a cap on this before, it's just a matter of like, if you're being stupid about it, like if you're 2.5 hours into this, but you are just like dying physically, there are real dangers in pushing yourself physically too hard. Like those are real things. Those are real concerns. And so you don't want to push yourself to that level. If there is any kind of time cap, it's going to be, don't be stupid is the time cap. But I don't have a lot of, to be honest, tips other than that. Like block off enough time. In the bike, I think is the only other thing I have is like, make sure that you, pick the right one. Like either it's going to be either an actual bike or bike erg. Bike erg is going to be way better and faster. And then choose your appropriate level. Like if 1,000 double unders seems like the biggest joke you've ever heard, yeah, you're not at that competitor level. And so if you're going down to established, it's 500 double unders, and then a recruit is 200 double unders. So there's quite a bit of range here. So make sure you also select the appropriate level, and do take the bike off take the vest off for the biking, running, and double unders.
Take the bike off for the run as well.
Take the bike off. Tramps, you got any tips for this one, man?
My tips were going to be just along the lines of let a loved one know that you are going to be busy for the next 2 hours, kind of like you said. I think I did it established when it first came out, and I was just over 2 hours. I went ahead and finished it because it was so close. But it was that, and then get a doctor's note from Chris Morrissey.
Yeah.
That's going to be my two best option. Two best. No, like Jerred said, there's not a lot to do. There's not a lot of tips. If you don't have a bike, you run, right? You run half the miles.
If you do not have a bike, you can row. If you do not have a bike or a rower, then you will double the run distance. If you don't want to or can't run, do a different workout.
Yeah. So,
there reaches a point where certain workouts, if you just scale too much, it's like, well, you're already doing a completely different workout, so it's okay to do a different workout.
That's even what I put in the notes, because I know people always have those questions, and it's like after a certain point, it's like, yes, run a half marathon in the middle. It's like, well, I don't know. That's not what I was going for when I programmed it for. So if you don't have these things, do something else. Like,
it's okay.
Yeah. All right, cool.
I didn't mind this one.
Well, I like this one. It's really a time thing. This one messes with you mentally for the time reason. I think if you're decent at calisthenics and the aerobic stuff, that's the only place I feel like it's messed with me mentally, is just like, it's really normally about in the run where because I know pretty like well how long 3 miles is going to take me. And there's no like cheating that. Like I can't shave off 7 minutes on a 3 mile run, right? It's not going to happen. And so I'm just like, that's where it starts to mess with me, is I'm like, well, I'm this tired. I'm going into a 3 mile run after a 10 mile bike. I know I've got at least this much time just to finish the run. That's where it starts to mess with my mind. And that's where you really need to start controlling the conversation in your brain. But give it a try. Let us know how it goes.
This is a complete aside, because I was thinking about time frames. You were wondering about the top times and just what people might expect. And just for shits and giggles, I pulled up the Team Builder leaderboard. For those of you who don't know, we used to do a little bit with the leaderboard, and we don't do it anymore. And this is a prime reason why, because on the leaderboard, there are about 7 people with times of like right at 1 hour. There's a 52, and then there's somebody that put 0.33. So yeah. That is
why we stopped using the leaderboard. And because
ridiculous things.
We would have to have every workout also like, did you do broken arrow at established or recruit? And were there any modifications? Because and that's why the leaderboard just doesn't work with a community our size. So that's why we really focus more on like the fit test and like fit week and all those kind of things. But that's it for this week, guys. Try that workout. It's one of my favorites for sure. Definitely a good one. If you're part of the community, we really appreciate you being around, doing the workouts. We got a new 5 Line Friday version out. It's we got some good feedback on it. If you're not a part of the newsletter, I'm sure you can sign up somewhere. I don't know. You could go try and figure that one out and Google it around. 5 Line Friday is what it used to be called. It's now called The Garage, but we're putting a lot of great information about our training in there. Shirt of the month is in there, which is this month is Fat Breather. We have programs of the month in there. You definitely want to be a part of this newsletter. We're hitting some awesome merchandise and also some awesome like programs and stuff that we haven't actually released. So you're definitely going to want to check those things out. And, primarily for the community, And again, thank you guys so much for all that you do. Anyone who wants to be a part of the training, you can go to garagegymathlete.com. You can start a 14-day free trial, and you can be a part of everything that we do in Garage Gym Athlete, programming-wise, community-wise. But that's it for this one, guys. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you. Athlete Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Thanks for listening.